People come and go. Friendships that once felt unbreakable fade. Relationships that seem destined to last sometimes end unexpectedly. Even family dynamics shift over time. Life is a series of seasons, and in each one people enter and exit. This is the nature of humanity. People are temporary. Their loyalty, their presence, their affection, it all has an expiration date. No matter how much we try to hold on, we cannot control the movement of others in our lives. But God is eternal. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does not change with time. He does not walk away when things get hard. He does not turn his back because of disappointment. While people are inconsistent, God remains steady. It is human nature to seek connection and to desire lasting relationships. But when the foundation of our security is placed in people, we set ourselves up for heartache. When someone leaves, we feel abandoned. When someone betrays us, we feel shattered. When someone stops loving us, we feel unworthy. This happens because we attach our sense of worth to the presence of people rather than to the presence of God. We rely on human beings to provide the stability that only God can offer. No matter how much someone loves us, they are still human. They will fail us at some point. They will disappoint us, even if unintentionally. But God is not like man. He does not fail. His love is unwavering. His presence is constant. His promises are true. Chasing after people leads to frustration. It leads to exhaustion. It leads to a cycle of trying to prove oneself, to be good enough, to meet expectations that constantly change. But when you chase God, there is peace, there is rest, there is assurance that you are already loved, already chosen, already enough. God does not require you to perform for his love. He does not measure your worth based on how well you meet certain criteria. His love is unconditional. His presence is not dependent on your perfection, but on his promise to never leave nor forsake you. There is something unshakable about placing your trust in what is eternal rather than what is temporary. People change their minds. One day they are with you, the next they are gone. But God does not change his mind about you. He does not withdraw his love when you make mistakes. He does not grow tired of you. He does not walk away when things get tough. When you build your life on him, you build on a foundation that cannot be moved. Many people spend their lives searching for security in relationships, in friendships, in social validation. They work tirelessly to maintain connections, afraid of being alone, afraid of being forgotten. But loneliness does not come from the absence of people, it comes from the absence of God. The deepest sense of belonging is not found in human relationships, but in a relationship with the one who created you. The longing in your heart cannot be fully satisfied by another person, because it was designed to be filled by God alone. People may bring joy, companionship, and love, but they cannot be your source of identity. They cannot be your anchor. Only God can fill that role. When life becomes uncertain, when relationships fall apart, when people walk away, God remains. He does not abandon his children. He does not let go of those who put their trust in him. He is the constant presence in an ever-changing world. When you understand this, you stop running after people who were never meant to complete you. You stop placing your faith in the approval of others. You stop fearing the loss of temporary relationships because you know that your security does not rest in them. It rests in God. Chasing approval is something many people do without even realizing it. From an early age, there is a deep desire to be accepted, to be valued, to be recognized. It starts in childhood, seeking approval from parents and teachers. It continues into adolescence, where friendships and social status become a measure of self-worth. As adults, the need for validation often remains, whether it's through relationships, career achievements, or social media recognition. The problem is that chasing approval becomes an endless race, one where the finish line is constantly moving. No matter how much approval is received, it never feels like enough. There is always another person to impress, another standard to meet, another expectation to fulfill. The more a person seeks validation from others, the more they become dependent on it, and the more they feel empty when it is not given. The world is full of shifting opinions. What is celebrated today can be criticized tomorrow. People's standards change, their preferences change, their loyalties change. Someone can applaud your efforts one moment and dismiss them the next. When worth is tied to the approval of people, it creates instability. There is a constant fear of rejection, a constant pressure to perform, a constant worry about whether or not one is measuring up. This cycle leads to exhaustion, to insecurity, to a life dictated by external validation rather than internal confidence. No matter how hard someone tries, it is impossible to please everyone. There will always be someone who disagrees, someone who disapproves, someone who refuses to acknowledge the effort that was put in. Living for the acceptance of others is a never-ending struggle, one that robs people of true joy and peace. Chasing God is the opposite. When a person seeks God first, they no longer have to chase approval because they already have it. God's love is not conditional. It is not based on performance, popularity, or perfection. It does not waver depending on success or failure. It does not disappear when mistakes are made. God sees beyond outward achievements and focuses on the heart. While the world evaluates worth based on accomplishments, appearance, and reputation, God values character, faithfulness, and obedience. His standards do not shift with culture. His love does not fluctuate based on human opinion. When someone places their identity in Him rather than in people, they experience a freedom that cannot be found anywhere else. There is no longer a need to prove anything because their worth is already established in God. Approval from others is temporary. It feels good in the moment, but it does not last. People's praise fades, their opinions shift, but God's love is everlasting. It does not come and go with circumstance. It is steady, unchanging, and unwavering. When a person chases after God, they stop seeking validation from sources that can never truly satisfy. They stop allowing their joy to be dictated by whether or not people acknowledge them. They stop living under the weight of constant comparison, trying to measure up to unrealistic expectations. Instead, they find confidence in knowing that they are already enough in God's eyes. They find security in a foundation that cannot be shaken. They find peace in knowing that they do not have to earn God's love. It is freely given. The world constantly tells people that their value is based on their achievements, their influence, their ability to impress others. It encourages them to seek approval at all costs, even if it means compromising their values, exhausting themselves, or losing sight of what truly matters. But no amount of human validation can ever replace the fulfillment that comes from being secure in God. Chasing after people's approval will always lead to emptiness because it is never permanent. Chasing after God leads to fulfillment because He never changes. People often struggle to accept when someone leaves their life. Whether it's a friend who suddenly becomes distant, a relationship that ends unexpectedly, or a person who once seemed supportive but turns out to be disloyal, it can be difficult to understand why these things happen. Human nature clings to familiarity, to comfort, to the idea that certain people are meant to stay forever. But God sees what is unseen. He knows hearts, intentions, and the future. When someone is removed from your life, it is not always rejection, it is often protection. It is God's way of making room for something better, redirecting your path, or preventing unnecessary pain that you may not yet see. There are times when people are only meant to be in your life for a season. They serve a purpose, they teach lessons, they walk with you for a time, and then their role ends. Holding on to people who were never meant to stay leads to frustration, disappointment, and hurt. When God removes someone, it is not because He is punishing you, it is because He is protecting you from what you cannot yet comprehend. Some relationships seem good on the surface, but underneath they are draining your spirit, leading you away from your purpose, or keeping you tied to things that hinder your growth. Sometimes God allows someone to walk away because if they stayed, they would only bring confusion, distraction, or destruction. Human vision is limited. People often judge relationships based on emotions, memories, or personal desires, but God sees the entire picture. He knows what is being said when you are not around. He knows the true intentions of a person's heart. He knows what the future holds and whether keeping someone in your life will benefit or harm you. Trusting God means understanding that when He removes someone, He is doing it out of love. He is not taking something away to hurt you, but to align you with His greater plan. Sometimes the removal of people is a test of faith. It is easy to trust God when life is comfortable, when relationships are thriving, and when nothing feels like it is being taken away. But true faith is trusting even when things do not make sense. It is believing that even in loss there is purpose. It is understanding that God's ways are higher and His wisdom is greater. When someone walks away, it may hurt, but that does not mean it is not necessary. Pain is often part of growth. God may be allowing a loss now to bring something greater later. People who leave were never meant to be the foundation of your life. If they could walk away, then they were never the ones holding you up in the first place. God does not allow anything to be removed without reason. He does not take away without the intention of replacing, restoring, or redirecting. Clinging to what He is trying to remove only prolongs the process. When you release what is no longer meant for you, you make room for what He has prepared. Some people are only in your life because of convenience, not purpose. They are attached to who you were, not who you are becoming. When God elevates you, not everyone can go with you. Some connections are seasonal, meant to teach, to shape, or to reveal. If God is closing a door, it is because He has something better ahead. Letting go is not always easy, but it is necessary. There is freedom in trusting that God sees beyond what you can see, and when He removes someone, it is always for a greater reason. When God is the priority in your life, everything else falls into place. Many people spend their lives chasing relationships, friendships, and connections, believing that their happiness and fulfillment depend on who is in their circle. They invest their time and energy into trying to keep people close, fearing that without them they will feel incomplete. They believe that if they can just find the right person or surround themselves with the right people, they will finally feel secure. But the truth is, when God is at the center of your life, the right people will naturally come. You do not have to beg for love, force relationships, or chase after those who were never meant to stay. What is meant for you will align with God's plan, and the people who are truly meant to be in your life will be placed there at the right time. People often struggle with loneliness, believing that they must actively pursue relationships in order to feel whole. They settle for friendships and connections that do not serve them spiritually, simply because they fear being alone. But loneliness is not about the absence of people. It is about the absence of purpose. When you chase God first, you find fulfillment in Him, and as a result, the right relationships come naturally. The right people are those who uplift, encourage, and align with the purpose God has for your life. They do not require you to compromise your values, beg for attention, or prove your worth. They come as a blessing, not as a burden. Many times people find themselves chasing relationships that are not meant for them, holding on to people who are pulling them away from God rather than pushing them closer to Him. They believe that if they try hard enough, they can make someone stay, but forcing a connection that God has not ordained only leads to frustration. It is not your job to convince someone to be in your life. It is not your responsibility to fight for a place in someone's heart. What God has for you will not require you to beg, to suffer, or to lose yourself in the process. When you prioritize God, He aligns your life with people who reflect His love and truth. He brings relationships that are built on trust, respect, and spiritual growth. These connections are not based on temporary emotions but on divine purpose. The friendships and relationships that God ordains will not drain you or make you feel less than enough. They will strengthen you, challenge you to grow, and bring peace instead of confusion. People who are not meant for you will naturally drift away when you start seeking God first. This is not rejection, it is redirection. God will remove what is not serving His plan for your life, and He will replace it with something better. The ones who truly belong in your life will be drawn to you not because of what you do for them, but because of the light of God within you. They will come without manipulation, without force, and without unnecessary struggle. Chasing after people is exhausting, but chasing after God brings clarity. When you seek Him first, you stop wondering who belongs in your life because He makes it clear. You no longer waste time trying to hold on to those who are meant to leave. You no longer question why certain relationships did not work out. Instead, you trust that when God is at the center, everything will align in His perfect timing. The relationships meant to last will flourish effortlessly, and the ones that do not were never part of His plan for your future. Many people spend their lives trying to prove their worth to others. They seek validation from friends, family, coworkers, and even strangers, hoping that someone will affirm their value. They base their self-esteem on how others see them, constantly trying to meet expectations, gain approval, or fit into certain standards. But human approval is inconsistent. It changes with opinions, circumstances, and emotions. What someone values today, they may disregard tomorrow. If worth is placed in the hands of people, it becomes fragile, easily broken by criticism, rejection, or indifference. True worth does not come from people, it comes from God. He created you with purpose, with intention, and with love that does not depend on the opinions of others. God knew you before you were born. He formed you with care, giving you gifts, talents, and qualities that are uniquely yours. He did not make a mistake in creating you. He did not create you to live in a constant state of insecurity, questioning whether you are good enough. Your worth is not determined by what you achieve, what you look like, or what others think of you. It is determined by the simple fact that you are a child of God. No amount of success can add to that worth, and no amount of failure can take it away. God's love does not waver based on performance. It is not conditional. It is steady, unchanging, and unwavering. People often fall into the trap of comparing themselves to others. They look at social media, at peers, at coworkers, and wonder if they measure up. They believe that if they could be more successful, more attractive, or more talented, they would finally feel valuable. But comparison is a thief. It steals joy, confidence, and peace. It leads to a mindset of never being satisfied, always feeling behind, and constantly questioning one's own worth. God did not create you to be like anyone else. He made you unique with a path that is different from others. Measuring yourself against someone else's journey is not only unfair but unnecessary. Your value is not found in how you compare to others, but in the fact that you were made by a perfect Creator. Rejection from people does not mean rejection from God. Sometimes people walk away, opportunities close, or recognition is not given. It is easy to feel overlooked, unseen, or unappreciated. But God does not forget His children. He does not need the world's approval to use you for His purpose. Many times what looks like rejection is actually redirection. God removes what is not meant for you so He can replace it with something better. He does not need human validation to bless you. He does not require the approval of others to fulfill His plans in your life. When you understand that your worth is in God, you stop seeking it from places that were never meant to define you. You stop chasing after people who do not value you. You stop feeling defeated when others fail to recognize your efforts. You stop questioning whether you are enough. The world will always try to convince you that your value is based on status, wealth, popularity, or accomplishments. But those things fade, they do not last. What lasts is the truth that you are already enough in God's eyes. He sees beyond what the world sees. He does not measure you by temporary success, but by the heart. When your confidence is placed in Him, you no longer need people to validate what God has already confirmed. There is a deep longing in every human heart for love, acceptance, and belonging. People search for it in relationships, in friendships, and social circles, believing that if they can just find the right person or the right group, they will finally feel complete. They chase affection, hoping it will bring security. They pursue approval, believing it will fill the emptiness inside. They attach their happiness to how others treat them, how often they are included, or how much attention they receive. But the love of people, no matter how strong it may seem, is not perfect. It is flawed, inconsistent, and limited. People change, feelings fade, promises are broken. Even the most loyal relationships can experience disappointment. The love of God, however, is constant. It does not shift with circumstances. It does not weaken with time. It does not disappear when mistakes are made. It is the only love that is truly unconditional. God's love is not based on performance. It is not something that must be earned or proven. It is freely given, regardless of past failures, shortcomings, or struggles. People often believe that they must reach a certain level of perfection before they can be fully loved. But God loves completely, even in imperfection. He sees beyond mistakes. He knows every flaw, every weakness, every insecurity, and He loves anyway. His love does not come with conditions or limitations. It is not dependent on success, status, or appearance. It is not given as a reward for good behavior or taken away in moments of failure. It is a love that remains steady, even when everything else feels uncertain. Chasing people for love often leads to disappointment. It creates a cycle of seeking, striving, and never feeling fully satisfied. People were never meant to be the source of fulfillment. They were never meant to complete what only God can complete. When love is sought in people first, it places expectations on them that they were never designed to carry. No human being can fully satisfy the soul's deepest needs. No relationship, no matter how strong, can replace the love of God. People will fail, but God never does. His love does not waver based on emotions. It does not weaken under pressure. It does not leave when things become difficult. It is steady, unshakable, and eternal. When a person truly embraces the love of God, they no longer feel the need to chase after love from people. They stop settling for relationships that are unhealthy, one-sided, or conditional. They stop trying to prove their worth to those who do not appreciate it. They stop compromising their values just to feel accepted. They stop allowing rejection to define them. When God's love is the foundation, confidence replaces insecurity. Peace replaces desperation. Security replaces fear. Instead of running after love that is unreliable, they rest in the love that never fails. There is freedom in knowing that love does not have to be earned. There is peace in understanding that worth is not based on the approval of others. There is joy in realizing that no matter what happens, no matter who stays or who leaves, no matter what mistakes have been made, the love of God remains unchanged. People may walk away, but God never does. People may grow distant, but He remains close. People may love imperfectly, but His love is perfect. When a person stops chasing love from others and starts resting in the love of God, they find the fulfillment they were searching for all along.